Let's set the scene. Atlanta, Georgia, 1995. The Braves that won the World Series, Marta's fare was $1.50. Powerball tickets went on sale for the first time in Georgia, and Andre 3000 let the world know that the South got something to say. And in Atlanta, 1995 also marked the beginning of the end of the phenomenon known as Freaknik. During a time where news spread through the word of mouth rather than social media, and there were no camera phones, only camcorders, Black students of the Atlanta University Center, or the AUC, curated one of the biggest, raunchiest, most out-of-control spring break festivals the culture has seen to this day. Think hundreds of thousands of Black people cruising through the gridlocked streets of Atlanta in the flyest cars with the best sound system blasting Goody Mob, 2 Live Crew, and Adina Howard. Killer Mike described it as an unorganized Mardi Gras of sorts that was all about showing your car, your girls showing off their bodies, and dudes showing their gold. Think rump shaking, catcalling, drinking, dancing, big college fun. It was way more than a party. It took over the entire city. Freaknik was larger than life, but it didn't start out that way. Here's what happened to Freaknik. In 1983, the AUC, not unlike other Black colleges, was home to different state clubs that included students with coming home states. 6 members of the Washington, D.C. Metro Club, including then Spelman College freshman Sharon Toomer, effectively came together to plan the first ever Freaknik. It was a small picnic for students who were stuck on campus during spring break. One of the organizers, Rico Brown, combined freak with picnic to get Freaknik, inspired by the popular dance, the freak. Hosted no more than 60 students, the first Freaknik was held in Piedmont Park, which at the time was basically a shabby lot with a picnic area. Toomer recalls the picnic being centered around camaraderie, party, and music. Freaknik became an annual event, and each year it grew. Atlanta became the place to be for Black college spring break. With the mention in Spike Lee's 1988 film, School Days, Freaknik started to gain national attention. Eventually, students from all over the country were road tripping to Atlanta for the festivities. They appreciated Atlanta for having a space enriched with Black culture for students to kick back and let go of their scholarly responsibilities. Over the years, Freaknik moved from park to accommodate the growing number of attendees. The name Freaknik was then trademarked, and officially spelling became Freaknik with a K instead of a C. Freaknik was no longer an intimate picnic. It was now a huge college festival. As the 90s approached and Freaknik opened the doors to non-AUC students and non-students altogether, the chaos that followed would ultimately end Freaknik for good. 1993 was the year things got real. Over 100,000 students, locals, and folks just looking for a good time found themselves in the heart of Atlanta. Freaknik had expanded into weekends of parties, concerts, and other events around the city. But the real party was in the streets. Traffic got so bad that the roads became a parking lot and a dance floor. What they called cruising was some people's favorite part of Freaknik. Getting out of your car in traffic to talk to people, dance, and party. Rapper Bun B recalled his experience to Complex. It was crazy for me, because we ended up being stuck in traffic on the freeway. The freeway and the exits was at a standstill. So I got out of the car and literally walked down the freeway, down the exit ramp and into downtown in order to get to the hotel and secure. When I got out the car, people were drinking and dancing because everybody was there to party. They were pumped up and ready to go, but they couldn't get to the party. So they were like, fuck it, we're going to the party right here and right now. To a carefree college student, it was what we would call today lit. But to business owners and residents with places to be, it was a nightmare. There were many reports of locals missing prom, weddings, and even funerals because of the intense traffic. As complaints of rowdy behavior grew, so did the divide between pro and anti-Freaknik residents. At the time, then City Councilman Bill Campbell defended the students' right to party, stating that with better policing and planning, we can certainly welcome them back. The future mayor would also find himself in the middle of racial tensions, as most of the complaints were from white business owners and residents. The students felt they were partying no harder than a predominantly white college would during spring break, and the leaders of the historically Black town should have their back. To reach a compromise between the city and partygoers, civic leaders decided to try to make Freaknik more acceptable by changing its theme. They added a job fair and a community basketball game with concession stands along Auburn Ave. Although the city's attempt to turn Freaknik into Atlanta's Black college spring break celebration would prove to be unsuccessful, Mayor Bill Campbell assured that with the allocation of $175,000 for security and cleanup, the event would run much smoother than last year. Freaknik 1994 brought double the amount of participants it did the last year. 200,000 people gathered from all over the nation and even Canada. As the crowds grew, the real freaks began to emerge. The partying got even crazier. Non-students had turned Freaknik into a place to ignore their morals and do any and everything they wanted. Things that normally happen in strip clubs spilled into the streets. Men were fondling women at every turn with or without consent. Uncle Luke was known as the king of Freaknik, and attendees had begun to live out the lyrics to his songs right there in the streets. Perhaps the music video to his 1993 song, Work It Out, which was shot at the previous year's Freaknik, encouraged more raunchy activity. But unfortunately, it made Freaknik a little more dangerous for women who weren't willingly participants in the lewd behavior. Arrests for disorderly conduct, indecent exposure, and public lewdness increased, and the media reported all of the unmentionable incidents. But by this time, Freaknik was adding at least $20 million to the city's economy, so officials turned a blind eye to the craziness of the festival while simultaneously disassociating with the event together. Sharon Toomer, one of Freaknik's founders, who graduated from Spelman in 1986, told the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, "It changed when it became something other than a college event. There is no reason that a 50-year-old man needed to be at Freaknik. The crime, violence, and degradation of women had gotten out of hand. I was disappointed on many fronts." 1995 marked the decline of Freaknik as it was known. Mayor Bill Campbell and his police chief, Beverly Harvard, enlisted the AUC college presidents to send letters out to over 140 schools, discouraging students from attending any further. Stores were looted, people were shot, women were sexually assaulted. Freaknik had lost the essence of what it was founded on. And it was widely accepted among the college students that it was non-students engaging in wild behavior. Toomer told the AJC, its original purpose was to be an annual event to encourage camaraderie between historically black colleges. It was a rare opportunity for black college students to get together. Chris Williams, an Atlanta native who attended his first Freaknik as a freshman at Tuskegee University, told Atlanta Magazine, "Cops were showing up at Lenox Mall and people weren't doing nothing. They were just there. It was amazing how different they looked at us. Like we weren't college educated, like we were thugs. We were rocking polo, Tommy Hilfiger. We weren't looking raggedy. We had money to spend." At this point, businesses would close early and hotels would refuse reservations to those attending Freaknik. And although there was a whopping $1 million budget for security and cleanup, it wasn't enough to clean the image of what Freaknik had become. In 1996, the mayor decided to distance himself and the city government from Freaknik, asserting that they were not in the party business. He formed the Atlanta Committee for Black College Spring Break, composed of clergy, students, business leaders, and neighborhood activists to facilitate anything having to do with Freaknik. There were more attempts to rebrand Freaknik in efforts to bring the festival back to what it used to be. Jonathan Gaines, a senior at Georgia State University at the time, proposed the Freedom Fest to bring more positivity to the event. He echoed most of the black community's disappointment that the city was not willing to help turn the Spring Break Festival around, even after students' attempts to clean it up. He told the Washington Post, "The city is in the party business. Braves games, the Olympics, that's the party business." There was a dark element that loomed over Freaknik the next few years before it came to its unfortunate end. Police presence grew more intense and the traffic was more controlled. By 1997, Atlanta had posted nearly 300 no cruising zone signs throughout the city. They had effectively rebranded to the Sweet Auburn Fest and was much more controlled than the previous years. The vibe of the original Freaknik was totally erased and the number of attendees continued to decline. The Associated Press reported in 1998 that the Atlanta Committee for Black College Spring Break would no longer welcome Freaknik. "We cannot support events that bring lewd activities, sexual assaults, violence against women, and public safety concerns. Fire trucks not being able to reach victims, and ambulances not being able to reach hospitals in a timely manner," said committee chairman George Hawthorne. In 1999, there were less than 50,000 Freaknik attendees, and most of the people there were men. The Baltimore Sun reported sights of men driving around aimlessly looking for women. Police heavily monitored activity and stepped in quickly with any signs of nudity or lewd behavior. It was the worst year yet for the festival. Other black college festivals began to pop up around the nation, and students went elsewhere for their spring break celebrations. The city of Atlanta got its wish, and in 1999, the celebration of Freaknik officially ended. There have since been more than recent attempts to revive the notorious festival, most notably in 2019, the promotion group After Nine Partners, who now owns the trademark for Freaknik, hosted 20,000 attendees at the Solaris Amphitheater in Atlanta. The one-day festival hosted performances by some frequent guests of the original Freaknik like Uncle Luke, Trina, and Jermaine Dupri. The goal was to bring Freaknik back, but in a more positive way. Although guests had a good time at the new Freaknik, most recalled that it would never top the original, and it's probably best to let it rest. Celebrities have paid homage to the festival with Freaknik-themed parties, and T-Pain even produced Freaknik, the musical and animated TV special based on the infamous festival that aired on Cartoon Network. Freaknik was so prominent, it had a different world characters, Whitley and Freddie, ready to risk it all to attend. And all the way in Los Angeles, Anthony Anderson's character Dre in Blackish recalled while sharing a college anecdote with his kids that what's happened at Freaknik stays at Freaknik. What made this festival so special? You will have to have experience to understand. Most people, especially Atlanta natives and HBCU alumni, prefer to remember Freaknik for what it was intended to be: the celebration of beautiful Black educated people coming together in fun, music, and fellowship. It will forever be known as one of the biggest Black college festivals ever, and its cultural impact will always live on. Stay up to date with the latest news in comedy, sports, and music by subscribing here to our YouTube channel. Follow Hype Plus across all social media and look out for original content on our new streaming service. For Hype Plus, I'm Terrence Sims.